Hold up, I am on my way, I'm in motion. Let's go to the ocean. Yeah, let's go outside. We can hang out on the beach without freezing.
Welcome to Crafty Beach. This is Julie. Today I have Spring Fairy Garden DIYs for you using supplies from the Dollar Tree, and I tried to get really creative with these. Fun ideas you can use indoor or outdoor with the Spring Fairy Garden items from the Dollar Tree. For the first one, I wanted to see if I can make a fairy garden wreath. So I'm going to use one of the foam wreath forms from the Dollar Tree and one of their fairy garden houses. I chose this one because it was the thinnest one from front to back, so I thought it would work well here on a wreath. I'm just going to use a Sharpie to kind of measure out where that's going to be, and I started carving like a little opening to sit it in. Now, a knife might be a little faster than this. I was trying to not cut too deeply though, so I'm using one of those foam cutters there from the Dollar Tree, one of the fun noodle cutters. Those work really good for foam in general. This foam though is pretty sealed, so it takes a little bit of carving. And so I just carved that out, but I also want it to be fairly flat so that I will be able to glue the house in there easily. I don't want it to fall out or anything like that. It's not super heavy, so I think it's going to be okay. Maybe a few more trims here in the middle so I have more area to contact with it. That looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and add some hot glue, and I'm going to sit it in there sort of centering it where it sticks out as far in the front as it does in the back, which isn't very much with this cute little house. How cute is this, right? And I like the fact the colors are not super bright on this, but we're going to add all kinds of fun spring to this. While it's drying, I went ahead and added some hot glue to the front and the back to seal those in. Definitely giving this time, letting the hot glue set up. And I went over it with a little bit more too on the front, and then I'm also going to do it on the sides. You won't be able to see that in the end, but I think it's really important to go ahead and attach your house first like this, and carving the little opening for it made that so much easier to get contact and let that hot glue dry. Now for the fun part, we're going to cover the entire wreath with reindeer moss from the Dollar Tree, and I want to cover everything you're going to be able to see. So I'm going to cover the front, the outside, the inside of it, and I'm just using hot glue. I've seen other people use tacky glue to attach their moss, and I guess that would work. It might be a little bit more durable outside, but I've had really good luck with the hot glue and the reindeer moss, using it even on outdoor wreaths. I'm going to use this probably as an indoor wreath just because it's kind of small, but I think it'd be really cute on a front porch as well, right? And I am just tearing the moss into pieces that are fairly flat so I can add it on there. I like the little bit of variety in color. I've noticed some of my packages are a little bit brighter than the others, but I am not going to be mixing any other kind of moss in it today. I'm just going to be doing the reindeer moss, at least for this fairy garden project. So I just worked my way around. I wish that Dollar Tree had a larger foam wreath form like this, with people talking about a price increase at Dollar Tree. Hopefully they will get bigger ones. But it's a cute size, and it works really well for a wreath for a door in your house. I have one this size to my guest room on a little command hook, and it looks really cute on an indoor door. I just go all the way around. That looks pretty good for the first round. And then I found it was a little bit easier just to turn it over to do the outer edge and to do the inside. I really don't have much to add here, but I want to make sure that even from the sides, you're not going to be able to see any of that green foam through. And the fact that the wreath form itself is green does help. If you can see in between any of the moss, it'll all kind of blend in together with the green, right? And what I want to do is give this like fairy garden vibe. So we already have the fairy garden house. We have all of this great reindeer moss, and then I want to add a few other touches to give it the fairy garden feel. I'm not going to be adding any actual fairies to this DIY, but maybe she's home in her house, right? And maybe a little bit here on the inside just to make sure that you can't see any of that green. And this part of the wreath is almost complete. That looks pretty good. Now it's time to decorate this. Before I get too much further though, I do want to go ahead and make a hanger. I'm just going to use a piece of twine, really easy. I'm going to feed that through the moss and just knot it here at the top. Super easy way to hang this without really interfering much with the fairy garden feel of this. The twine matches in well with the moss. Okay, now for the other fairy garden I'm going to add to this, I'm going to add a little welcome sign. I think they have a couple different varieties of these. I think it's a great scale for this, and I can put it on the side like this. I wanted to add at least one more fairy garden piece to this to give it that fairy garden feel, but I want to decorate a lot of it with spring florals and items that really remind me of spring. So I just attached that with hot glue to the moss, pushing it back far enough so it does get contact with the foam wreath form too. And I wanted some yellow flowers, and I didn't really have any tiny ones from the Dollar Tree, but this greenery from the Dollar Tree did have a little yellow flower at the very end. And so I'm just going to snip those off, adding a little hot glue to the stem and gluing those down into the moss. They're not super bright, but they're the right scale. And then off this greenery with the onion grass, these have butterflies on them. And I thought a butterfly would be a great touch for this. So mine's a little bent up. I'm going to give mine a quick iron with my heat gun and attach this to it as well. It's so pretty. Look at the colors. I think these have gotten a lot better because I've bought these on the onion grass in the past at Dollar Tree, and they weren't quite this pretty and detailed as that butterfly. I really love it. Then for flowers, I'm going to use these little tiny flowers from the Dollar Tree. These are pink. The great thing about these, there's double petals on there, and there's a little notch on the top and a notch on the bottom. So if you just snip them off, they are going to stay on there, but I'm leaving a little bit of a stem on there because I can add some hot glue to glue that down into the moss. And I just scatter those all over. I thought some baby's breath would be really pretty too, but this is kind of a smaller scale wreath, so I'm going to actually cut the baby's breath into individual branches and add them separately like this. So just adding a dot of hot glue to the end of each one of these and adding these to the wreath. Now, have you guys ever seen, there's like a hot glue well that you can put hot glue in where you can like dip items into it? I've often wondered if I should get one of those for crafting. If you guys have one, let me know. I think that would be a fun thing where you can just dip items into and add them with hot glue. It'd be a little bit easier than using my hot glue gun for this. But I want to scatter these all over. I think that gives it a really pretty vibe. And this DIY was so easy to make. A little fairy garden wreath for spring. The bright colors with the pink and the yellow flowers. I love the butterfly on there. That's a fun touch. If you don't have a little fairy or anything to attach to it there. And the little fairy garden house, I think my fairy is just home. She's got the door closed with a cute little welcome sign as well. Would make this great for an entryway. Isn't this so cute? I really love how this one turned out. Hey guys, are you enjoying today's video? If you are, be sure to hit that like button. It really helps. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell for notifications on when I post new videos. For the next DIY, I wanted to see if I could use one of these new leaf trays from the Dollar Tree. I thought this would be fun to do an indoor fairy garden that would look great like on a table as a centerpiece or something like that. I wanted to do a little bit of a fairy garden farm feel on this one. So I got this little brown house that I think would go with the vibe. I think I'll add that right about there. I'm going to do it facing one direction. I think it's going to look a little bit better that way. And then I also got a little farm pond here with some cute little ducks that we can add to it. And then I found these little butterfly chairs from the Dollar Tree the other day in the fairy garden section. I think they're so cute. And I'm going to pair that with a fairy. I want the fairy to be sitting by the pond, enjoying the yard that we're going to make here in this leaf. And this actually worked out really well. I wasn't sure what to do with this tray, how to decorate it, but I think this is going to be really cute. I can have little fairies sitting like this, and we can make a great little centerpiece indoor fairy garden. I do want to tack mine down with some hot glue just so they don't move around too much. So I hot glued down my house. I'm also going to hot glue the pond, kind of like it going that way together. kind of got an interesting shape. And then the little chair, I'm definitely going to have to glue that so it doesn't fall over every time somebody touches the table. And the fairies don't fit really well in these chairs, not as well as I thought they would be since they're from the same line at the Dollar Tree. So you definitely have to hot glue little fairy on to the chair, unless of course I guess you're going to be playing with them. And then I'm going to put like the little baby maybe in the water and the older one on the shore. So I'm going to go ahead and glue that one to the water so it stays in place. And then I'm going to add reindeer moss for the greenery. It's not a very deep tray. I know a lot of you guys have told me you've seen these at the Dollar Tree. They're so cute. They're such high quality for $1.25. They're made out of almost like a wood resin material. And I'm just going to take little pieces of the reindeer moss and fill it out really everywhere where there is a little bit of an opening, where I want it to look like a yard. And I love using reindeer moss for grass in my fairy gardens. I do have a project coming up today with the faux grass they have right now for Easter that can work as well. It's going to give you a totally different look though. So this is the regular reindeer moss. I think that looks really cute. We can put the little duck over here. And now it needs some spring florals for the spring vibes on this. I'm going to use some of these flowers. These are the Tweedia. They're small flowers. They're not the smallest they have, but they're white and yellow. I think they look really cute with the color scheme we have going on, and the white tray, it blends really well together. So you just pull those off. They have tiny stems on them that you can glue into the moss. And then I'm also going to use some I have in yellow. So I love the yellow and white color scheme for this. I think it's going to be really bright and cheerful for spring. And again, I just add a little dot of hot glue to the stem of those, gluing those down into the moss just so they stay in place. This was such an easy fairy garden. I think it's going to look great for a centerpiece on my table for spring. I'm trying to get as many spring decor as I can in my house. I think it is a fun season to decorate with for sure. This is how it turned out. Isn't it so cute? I think the little pond and the ducks, the little fairy there, all really fun details that really want to make you smile. And you don't have to use it for a centerpiece either. It could be great for any kind of decor. I think it's so cute. You could use it indoor or outdoor as well, I believe. Now for the next one, I wanted to see if I could do a fairy garden in a jar. So I picked up one of these large jars from the Dollar Tree with the metal lids. I love these. They have different sizes. This is one of the tallest ones I think that you can get. I'm just going to simply remove the tag from the bottom. And I got a really cute little fairy garden with a wishing well that I can put inside there. It's going to fill up basically most of it. I'm not going to need any of the other fairy garden line to fill this up. And then I want to add some greenery behind it and some fairy lights so we can light this one up. I was making this one specifically for my back porch, something that I can turn on and off with the fairy garden lights. So I don't want it to move around, so I did hot glue it to the bottom of my jar. Then I'm just going to sprinkle in reindeer moss for the greenery all around. You just have to kind of put it in there because you can't get your hand in there too much for placement, but you can get it along the sides of it. And I like this jar a little bit better than the medium-sized one because it gives me plenty of room for greenery. This is the greenery I'm going to use, the silver dollar from Dollar Tree. I really only need one piece of the green to provide a lot of greenery background for her. And I just attach that with a little dot of hot glue right here. And then I want to light it up with fairy garden lights so it is really pretty at night. Now for the florals, I'm using the little tiny pink flowers from the Dollar Tree. They're called baby's breath, but they come in little hot pink or light pink colors. And I'm just cutting them. Again, they will stay together on their own like that. And just putting them in there. I'm not going to glue them in place or anything like that. I'm just going to scatter those around to bring a little bit of spring fun to the moss itself. But the little item that I found there with the little flower wishing well with the fairy is so cute on its own. And then the pink and green that I added to it really added a fun touch. For the fairy garden lights, these are just the regular fairy garden lights from the Dollar Tree. It doesn't matter. I think they're all about the same. I think they all have about 10 LED lights on them. They take the AA batteries, 2 of those. I'm going to add those on there. I buy my batteries in bulk on Amazon, and I find it to be a good deal, especially if you use them a lot for crafting like I do. I'm going to attach it to the lid of this so I can put the lid on there, and then to turn it on and off, I'll just have to open and shut the lid. Another option you could do is you could leave the battery pack out and not use a lid. There's different options you can use for that, but I did want to put the lid back on mine. Now I just bunch it together. I was trying to figure out the best way to do this. I want it to be pretty during the day, so I only want the lights behind the fairy and the well, but I also want them scattered out in the greenery. So it took me a couple of times to get the fairy lights in there before I get them exactly how I want them. For the battery pack, I'm going to attach it like this so I can still replace the batteries in there. I use a couple pieces of double-sided tape on this and a little hot glue. It's kind of hard to keep these battery packs on the lids. I think the combination of both of them will do the trick. And glue that to the top. There's still plenty of room to be able to use the lid to screw it on there. It doesn't interfere with any of that. So there is a little bit of cord left over, and it's going to move things around on you when you go ahead and try to put that on there. I tried it like that, and I wanted to rearrange it a little bit, and I totally can. So I'm just going to pull them back out, do a little different way where I can just put them in a little bit at a time to get them pretty much where I want them. I'm kind of going back and forth there, behind again. Definitely don't want to do any in the front, but I think I want them in front of the plant so that it's nice and bright when it lights up as well. So again, I attach my lid, and I like that way better. It's giving me the little feel I was looking for with the fairy garden lights. So adding fairy garden lights to your fairy garden can be a really fun idea as well. Now, just to bring a little color into the metal lid, I'm going to add some of the pink spring ribbon with the white flowers on there. This is going to go great with the pink items I have inside. It's not going to interfere with me being able to take the lid on and off of this to turn the light on and off. And I just glue that, gluing it to itself there on the very back of the lid. And let me straighten this out a little bit right there. And I think this little fairy garden is ready to go. Now you could do a smaller scale in one of the mason jars from the Dollar Tree as well. But I really love the little wishing well fairy. I think she's so pretty, so I would suggest doing a large one like this. You can do a big piece in there, and that's so cute. It was so easy to put together as well. It's got like lots of fun uses. You can put it outside. It's not going to get water or anything in it either. You're just going to have to remember to turn it on and turn it off. Let me show you how it looks in a little bit lower light to give you the vibe it looks like when it's all lit up at night. It actually puts out quite a bit of light to light it up, and just another fun idea I thought of for a fairy garden. Here it is during the day, lit up though, and then also with a little bit less light. It's really bright. But I think it turned out really cute, and it was a fun DIY. For the next one, I'm always trying to find creative items to use at the Dollar Tree, right? I picked up one of these dustpans from the Dollar Tree because I thought this would give me the look I was going for on this fairy garden, where I can make it look like there's a door going into a grassy hill. So that's my plan with this one. I thought the shape of the little dustpan would be perfect. It does have a little plastic cup that was covering the opening here on the top. That was like a temporary cover, but I don't want anything to get in here, so I'm just going to reattach that with a little bit of hot glue. And I want to cover the entire thing with some of this faux grass from the Dollar Tree Plus section for Easter. I love using this stuff. It's so fun to craft with. I wanted to cover the entire back wall like that and to go over to look like a little grassy hill. So I cut off a piece that's large enough to do that. And then the challenge is how to make this work with it needing to go on the bottom, the sides, the outside. I'm going to try to frame this around like this. And I wanted to cover the back as well here. So I am going to start by attaching it to the back here of the little dustpan with hot glue. And this is one of the dustpans that I guess that you put the little broom handle into. I am just using that bottom piece there from the Dollar Tree. I hot glue that to the bottom. It doesn't have to go all the way flush with the bottom. I'm going to use this fairy garden outside. And I want to put it in with my landscaping to make it really look like it goes with the landscaping, so make it look like grass. I put some hot glue on the inside of the lip like that, gluing that down and curving the grass around. Now to do the sides, I am going to have to do some cutting to make this work. There's going to be just too much of the grass fabric. So I cut it where I can make it go exactly where I want it to go, basically cutting the bottom section. I'm going to attach that first with a little bit of hot glue here, pushing it back so it goes straight up to that back. That's where I'm going to have our little fairy garden door. And then I wrap it around here. I want it to kind of make sense. I think that is going to work like that. And so I do have too much material here. I'm going to cut down a little triangle out of that so I have enough for the wall. And then I can have it wrap around the side like that. So it was a little challenging to get this to fit such a crazy shape, but we're going to make it work. And I'm going to save those pieces that I trim off to cover the rest of the bottom of it so I don't have to waste too much of the artificial grass. I do the same thing here on the other side, just cutting out a triangle and hot gluing that to the side. And it's doing a really good job of keeping that shape. Now I was pulling and tugging on this so much that I pulled this off a little bit. So definitely make sure you give your hot glue some time to set up there. Here on the back, I'm going to have the same issue working around this area, probably a little bit too much of the grass. So I'm going to cut it right about there, pull this tight, see how much extra grass I have, and then I can trim that off as well. So little square or a rectangle on both sides, I guess. And I'm going to pull this tight. A little bit of the grass is going to be on the bottom, but it worked. And again, I pull it tight. As you can see, that faux grass from the Dollar Tree has a black lining like that that can be a little bit visible. So whenever you cut and work with it, you're going to want to hide that a little bit to make it blend in with the grass. But that looks pretty good so far. I do want to cover the entire rest of it with grass so it can have a grassy lawn here as well for the little fairy. And so just using my scrap pieces that I just trimmed off, I'm going to put them together a little bit like a puzzle. I'm going to be decorating this with lots of things, so it definitely doesn't have to be perfect. But if there's too much black sticking out around the edges, I just go in and trim that off and just piecing it all together to cover the rest of it. And who would know that that was a little dustpan? In the end, the shape worked out exactly like I thought it would. Now I do have a little piece, a little parts here where you can see some of the black through. I'm going to use a few more of those scrap pieces to patch it together, just to try to cover up any of the black, make it look really nice. I think that looks pretty good. This is the fairy garden door that I got. It is probably the medium size. It's not the real big ones that are freestanding. This one comes in a package like this, and it's a perfect height for this project. I'm going to attach it to the faux grass with some hot glue here. And maybe now you can see my vision a little bit where I want the fairy garden door to lead into a grassy hill like the fairy garden house is underground. Now to decorate the yard, I'm going to use one of the little fairy garden chairs with a flower on there. It's got a pink flower. The door has pink accents on there as well and a pink door. So I wanted to use a lot of pink items on this. I think it looks great with the green. This is the fairy that I'm going to use for this one. She's got a green skirt, pink wings, very cute. She doesn't fit in the chair very well, but I think I can hot glue her in there and make that work. And I want her to be sitting in front of her little fairy garden. I thought I would give her a nice fountain for the yard as well. It's not a super big fairy garden, but there is room for little pieces like this. I found a little welcome sign from a package for the fairy garden at the Dollar Tree and a little sidewalk that looks like it's made out of wood, like a little deck that we can have go all the way back to the doorway. I do want to hot glue these down so they will stay in place, so I glue the little welcome sign, the little chair here over in the corner of her yard where she's going to be sitting in it. Really, you can only put some hot glue right there on the corner and have her sit almost on the edge of the seat to make her fit. And I tried the other fairy as well. Neither one of them fit in there very well. And then I'm going to have the fountain directly in the front of her house and the sidewalk leading out to it. I want to do some gravel on this too to make a little road and, landscape out our area. I attach my walkway with hot glue as well. This is what it looks like so far with the fairy garden items from the Dollar Tree. I'm actually going to use bath salt from the Dollar Tree for the gravel just because I found that it was about the right size. It's white. It smells nice. And I am going to put that on the sides of the sidewalk too to make it look like her yard is landscaped. And it goes out to the little fountain directly in the front of her house where I thought I would go all the way around, do like a little roundabout here in front of her house. And I can even do a road with this bath salt as well for gravel. You could also use the little white pebbles from the Dollar Tree. These are a little bit smaller, so I kind of like them for this scale. So I'm going to go both directions with a little gravel road in front of the little fairy garden house. I think that provides a lot of interest. I wanted to add a little greenery behind her and behind the welcome sign to break up all of that grass. So I'm going to use some of this greenery right here from the Dollar Tree. The colors are definitely a different color of green, but I like the variety of the green. This one almost has a fern-like leaf on there. I thought that would be fun and wild to kind of put here on the other side to provide a little bit more interest. And then I want to add some of this baby's breath from the Dollar Tree. Since this is a smaller scale, I am going to cut these down into individual pieces and scatter these around. I do make sure that there is some of the white flowers on each one of these. If not, I cut off the green stems that are just bare. But I'm just going to attach them one by one, dipping them in a little dot of hot glue and gluing those down into the grass. It provides a great option for a tiny flower from the Dollar Tree. And then these are the other baby's breath from the Dollar Tree that are little tiny flowers. They're definitely the smallest flowers I find from the Dollar Tree. I'm always trying to buy small flowers. They just seem to work well for DIYs, and they're a little bit harder to find at most of my Dollar Trees than the larger ones I've noticed. I do the light pink ones, cutting off a small stem and using hot glue to attaching those to the grass, and I'm just scattering those all over. I also have them in this bolder color of pink for some variety. I want it to look like her yard is completely filled with wildflowers, and so I'm going to scatter those around as well. And the two different pink flowers really go with all the pink that I'm going for with the color scheme. I do want to mix in a little purple too, though. I'm going to use a little tiny foam mushrooms from the Easter aisle at the Dollar Tree. And these are the little tiny ones. So there's tiny ones and then there's a little bit bigger one. I'm going to use these lavender ones. I think that's going to look really cute mixed together with the pink. And I'm just cutting off the entire wire from the bottom of these and putting a dot of hot glue on the bottom. I also have these in light pink, so I'm going to add some pink mushrooms as well. Goes great in a fairy garden. You can even put them up on your hill like this for a little bit of fun. And I'm thinking that's looking really good. The only thing I wanted to do was cover up the sides here in the front where you can still see a little bit of the black mat coming through from the grass and a little bit of the black from the front of that dustpan. And so I'm just going to use some reindeer moss and add some moss to the grass, but just here on the front and the sides. It's going to add another piece of greenery, make it a little bit more interesting. And I want to put this back in my landscaping in my yard so it really looks like it is a fairy garden that I built outside and it's part of the greenery and stuff like that. And this was a fun option. So I'm glad that I decided to use the dustpan. I just thought it would be the perfect shape for this and it really turned out well. So again, a little bit of moss here in the front and to cover up here on where you might be able to see some of the black coming through right there on the side. Since this is the front of it, I want that to look the absolute best. I thought maybe just a few more flowers, and I do have some of the lavenders from the Dollar Tree. Since I added the lavender mushrooms, I thought maybe I could add a few lavender flowers too. So I'm just going to cut a couple of these, put a little dot of hot glue on the ends of these, and glue those down into the grass. I'm going to do one on each side. And then I think it just needs a little bit more of the baby's breath, the little white ones, to decorate the front, and maybe one more mushroom. And this is how it turned out. I think it's so sweet. Let me give you a look around. this little fairy garden. A fun way to use one of those little fairy garden doors like that from the Dollar Tree. I was really pleased with their selection of fairy garden items this year at the Dollar Tree. They have so many cute items. This is my second fairy garden video that I've made this year, and so be sure to check out my other one if you haven't seen it yet. I will link it at the end of the video. But so many fun ideas that you can do. Now for this DIY, I decided to do a fairy garden tier tray. I thought it would make sense, right? I'm using my wood tier tray I got on Amazon, and for filler, I'm going to use reindeer moss and some of their floral moss just to mix up the greenery a little bit, and I'm going to use that all over both tiers. You could definitely use a round tier tray for this as well. I really prefer my rectangular ones like this. They just work well for the furniture I have in my house. They work well to hide like in the kitchen on the counter without taking up too much space. And on my entryway table, lots of different areas where I put tier trays in my home. They just fit really well for that. So I spread the reindeer moss out, and then I add little clumps of the floral moss as well, just to break up some of the green and add a little variety. And I'm going to be doing that on the bottom tier as well. I do want to also add a little ladder. I thought it would be really fun to do a little rope ladder where the gnomes could go up and down the ladders from each tier tray, right? Top to bottom, bottom to top. So I just cut a piece of twine that's about the right length, and I doubled that up. I cut 2 of them that length. For the ladder rungs, I'm going to use the Dollar Tree wood dowels. It's a nice small size. These are going to be easy to stain. I just take 3 of them, a makeup sponge, and some antique wax by Waverly. Give those a quick stain just to make them look a little bit more interesting. And then we'll cut these down to size. I thought it would be easier to stain it before I cut them, so I only have to stain 3 pieces of them. And I'm just going to put it together. Like, it kind of reminds me of the little ladders you see like in bird cages and pet cages and stuff like that, right? That's what I was looking for. But I just want to do a really decorational one. I'm not going to tie them. I'm just going to attach all of these with hot glue so it looks like a little ladder. And I cut them basically into thirds. There was a small piece I was cutting off the end because I was using one as reference to make sure that I did them all about the same length. And I just cut those down with my miter scissors. I got those miter scissors on Amazon. I really love them for crafting. They work really well for items like this without having to get the saw out. I just start at the bottom of my twine, adding a tiny dot of hot glue here to both sides and laying my little wood dowel right on top to make a ladder. I'm not measuring them. I'm just trying to estimate. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just want it to look like a fun little rustic ladder that would look cute on a fairy garden. This is really the only DIY I had to make for this tier tray using the fairy garden items from the Dollar Tree. They're so cute on their own. You don't have to do a lot to them. I leave a little extra twine there at the top to be able to attach that to my top tier. And I also try to clean up some of the hot glue. My hot glue gun does spit out quite a bit of hot glue to make that look a little bit better. And then I'm going to have it go like this, just on one side like this. I'm going to use a couple of dots of hot glue on the twine there at the top and have that go over that top tier, just tacking them on there really easily, having it free hanging like that down onto the bottom tier. And I thought that would be a fun touch for Little Fairy Garden. And then down here, we're going to again spread out that reindeer moss all over, mixed together with the floral moss to give us a great start to decorate this. I find it a little bit easier to put the moss in first and then add all the pieces to it. And I like the variety of color I got down there with the different reindeer mosses as well. Now for the first item we're going to use is the little tree house. It looks like a tree and it's nice and small. The color seems perfect. I'm going to put this here towards the back. For the top tier, I'm using some of the smaller gnomes from the Dollar Tree. They have some really large ones you'll see I'm going to use on the bottom, but I use the smaller ones here on top. This one says welcome. He's riding a turtle. He's so cute. He has a little mushroom as well. I just give his beard a little touch up there with a paint pen to make him look a little bit better. I do have to touch up a couple of these items, which is expected using items from the Dollar Tree, but he's so cute. I'm going to put him right there in front. The next gnomes I'm using are sitting on a little wood log, super cute. It's a couple of his and her gnome, and it comes with a little mushroom as well from the Dollar Tree. I thought this would be a really cute piece as well for the front. My camera was having a hard time focusing on them. See how cute they are? Sitting right next to each other with their little gnome hats on. I'm going to put those here on the other side, here in the front. They look great down into the moss like that. And then for the next item, I want to do a table and chairs. This one has a flower table that I can use for that. And it also has a birdhouse that I'm going to use in just a minute on the top tier. I think it's really cute. It looks like a wooden birdhouse. I'm going to do the table back here behind them, little flower table, nesting that into the moss. And then for the chair, I'm going to use a butterfly chair from the Dollar Tree for the fairies. I'm not going to have anybody sitting in it, but I thought it'd be great for a table chair combo here towards the back. And I don't know if you believe in spirits or not, but my camera just captured an orb going across the screen, and I did see it in real time, so it did make me pause. Let me show it to you real quick. Isn't that wild? And I thought I was alone. So I put the little birdhouse right there in the front. Everything is a perfect scale for this. I'm going to rearrange my moss a little bit to make it look a little bit better. And I think that that is looking really cute. And I'm going to scatter a few of the mushrooms here too from those packs, since it's a little bit smaller scale up here on the top of our tier tray. Now for the bottom, I wanted to do one of the freestanding doors from the fairy garden section. They're so cute this year. I really love this blue one. And I'm going to put that against the pole here in the middle. And there was another orb just there. I didn't know this was going to be such a paranormal type video. Ooh, maybe they are fairies. I put that on there. And then these are the larger gnomes that I saw from the Dollar Tree. This one's holding like a little flower to feed the birds. I thought about even putting a little bit of birdseed in there. I thought that'd be cute. I'm just going to touch up his flower a little bit here with the paint pen. He doesn't need much. I love his leafy hat, and he is going to be a great scale. Since that door is really big, I'm going to put him here towards the front, to the side of the ladder a little bit. And I think he's going to be really cute. I did find 2 gnomes this size from the Dollar Tree. This is the other one that's got a mossy hat, which I love. The only problem is they got a little bit of the moss on the flowers too. So I'm just going to touch those up real quick with some paint pens just to make them look a little bit better. Just painting directly over that mossy material that was on there. And its hands and nose were really skinned up as well. So I'm just going to use some ivory paint here, just something I had, and a tiny paintbrush, and touch him up a little bit just to make him look a little bit better. He had a lot of green coming through on that, which didn't really make sense. And touch up his beard a little bit too with some white, just to make him look his very best. He's so cute. I'm going to use him towards the front too so you can see him well. The largest one's towards the front. And then I want to do a couple houses for them. Now, they don't have houses to scale for that size gnome, but I found this one that looks like a tree with like banana leaves all over the top. And I'm thinking they will look like houses in the distance, right? Because they're in the back, which would make more sense since they are smaller than the scale of everything else down here. But I want to put a little bit off to the side so you can still see it behind that big gnome. And then this is the house I chose for the other side. It's one of the white mushroom houses with the moss on top. Mine was chipped up a little bit, so I'm going to touch it up with a paint pen and a Sharpie just to add a little bit of fun to it. I didn't realize the moss was kind of chipped on that one, but it'll work. That'll be another little house we can put here towards the back. Again, offsetting it a little bit so you can still see it from the front of the tier tray. And then I want to do a path to the door. I'm going to use the bath salt from the Dollar Tree for gravel. So I just make a little path here in the reindeer moss where I can sprinkle that in there. Just going to add another little texture, decor, and make sense. Pebbles going to the door. And since this is a larger scale down here, I felt like I needed less fairy garden items because they're all larger. But I do want spring flowers. So I'm going to be using the light pink and the pink baby's breath and some of the yellow wildflowers as well. I'm just cutting them into little pieces here. They stay on there perfectly fine. And I want a variety of the 2 different kinds of pink together, but also some of the yellow, which I can just pull off. It's just going to make it more interesting. And I think that's going to be enough for both tiers. I just take these and start putting those down into the moss. I'm not going to glue them down or anything. I want to be able to reuse this moss for other crafting because I used so much of it, and just scatter those all around. Isn't this such a fun theme for a spring tier tray? I really like it. You could definitely use it outdoors if you wanted, if you have like a porch or area that's covered. But I think I'm going to be using mine indoor for a spring tiered tray. I like the two different colors of pink and the yellow mixed together. And basically anywhere where there was a little bit of too much green, I added some flowers to break it up. And we're going to do the same thing up here on the top tier, where all of our little smaller gnomes are living. And using the gnomes for a fairy garden is really fun. They're so cute. I really love the table and chair on that as well. Let me give you a look around our little tier tray to show you all the fun details that we added. I love that size mushroom. I think that works out well. The little rope ladder is too cute. The door works perfectly there without even having to add like anything else. And I love those large gnomes. I think they're so cute, right? Definitely another fun way you can use the fairy garden items from the Dollar Tree. Again, I'm really impressed with the ones they have this year. The doors, the larger gnomes. I think that the furniture is better. Everything is just a little bit better than the tiny ones that they used to have at the Dollar Tree. But I think this is a really festive tier tray idea for spring. And here are more fairy gardens I've done here on my channel.
For 2 fairy gardens, we are going to be making indoor fairy gardens using these little signs from the Dollar Tree. I chose these because they have a pretty thick frame on them, and 2 square ones are going to look perfectly. I can do 2 fairy gardens and can have it like a path between the 2. So the first step is I'm just going to fill the hole in the frame with a little bit of spackle. The only thing I don't like about these Dollar Tree signs is that the frame is like an unfinished like MDF wood, and so it doesn't look very nice. So I'm going to paint mine. Another option is you could cover it with moss or something like that. That would be fun too. But I picked up a whole bunch of the new fairy garden items from Dollar Tree and things that I thought would look cute with my spring decor. So the color I'm going to paint mine is this. It's pink polish. And I've been using a lot of pink with my spring decor. And I'm going to use a lot of pink on these 2 fairy gardens. So I thought that would look nice together. It doesn't have to be perfect. And it does soak up a lot of the paint. But I'm just going to use a paintbrush and paint like the very outside and the top of the frame. I don't really have to protect the surface on the bottom or anything like that from getting paint on it because it's going to be all covered with fairy garden stuff, and the frame is just going to provide a great border to kind of keep everything in. I'm actually making these 2 fairy gardens for my dining room. I have a little bit of spring decor from my spring DIY video, and I wanted a little bit more to finish out my cabinet in my dining room. And that is the first one. I just did 1 coat on the very outside. I did go over the very top with like another color or another coat of pink just to kind of brighten it up and make it look a little bit better. And I would suggest definitely painting the frames on those. Now you can be creative on these. You can use anything really with a frame. If you have a piece that you think would work and it doesn't have a frame, you could always like glue the moss and stuff around the edges to kind of provide a little bit of a frame if you're doing an indoor one like this. Today we're going to be doing indoor fairy gardens. And so I just did the same thing here with the second frame, painting it with that pink polish color. I found some really great pieces from the Dollar Tree in the fairy garden section. I went to like 2 Dollar Trees yesterday to kind of see what I could find, and I was pleasantly surprised with all the cute stuff they have. I love the fairy garden stuff like the beach line. I use that a lot in my coastal DIYs, but I don't normally use the regular fairy garden stuff except for in spring. I really love it. Check out this tree I got. It has like pink flowers all over the top. Really cute for $1.25. It's actually painted really nice too. It's got a little butterfly on the front. I thought that would make a really large piece for one of these. I thought that'd be really cute. And I think I'm going to do it over here. I'm actually going to be gluing my pieces down today so that they won't fall over when I move them around, but that's totally optional. I also found this large piece that I thought would coordinate nicely. It is a tree with the pink flowers, and it's got like a little fairy in a swing, and she's swinging. And it actually sits really nice and everything. I thought that would be really cute to do the other one. I want them to be different, but I want them to complete like a scene. And you could even, if you had space, you could even do like 3 of these. I'm going to kind of show you how I put it all together. It turned out so cute. So just trying to kind of figure out exactly where I want those. I also found the little pond with the frog in it, which is so cute. I was thinking about trying to make like a fake pond with like acrylic or paint or something like this, but using these pre-made items from the fairy garden makes everything so easy, and it is so cute. This other little guy's in a boat, so I don't really have anywhere to put him, so I think I'll just use the pond. And I kind of want that towards the front just because it's a little bit of a shorter piece. And time to keep decorating. I want to do about 5 or 6 pieces in each one of these and kind of lay it out like a little scene. So this is a little garden bench. It's super cute as well. It's got a pink flower on it. Some of these also, like this one also has a little bush that I am going to use like a little bit later on in another DIY. But I thought this was a really cute little bench that we could create a little scene. It's a great source of miniature items for sure if you want to like decorate miniature stuff. Sometimes I do use the fairy garden stuff for tier trays if it's large enough, like, you know, that tree and the bench and the pond and stuff like that. I thought that the bench would be really cute, like overlooking a pond. We could do like a meadow scene over here with the little fairy swinging in the tree. And then we could do like the house setting on the other side. I also found these great little fairy garden bird baths. They're so cute. They have like flower tops. Aren't these so cute? So I'm going to choose the pink one because I'm kind of going with that pink theme. And it's got like a little ladybug on it too, which is super cute. And I think I'm going to use that over on the right fairy garden. Kind of more for like the house. So I've got like the meadow, and then we've got like the little fairy home. And we're going to kind of make it all work together. Now, this piece, I could not find the bridge. I thought that fairy garden had a bridge, but I couldn't find it. All I could find was this pathway, but I thought I could make that work as a bridge to connect the 2 fairy gardens together. And it actually worked out pretty well. So I think there is a bridge. I looked at like maybe 3 different Dollar Trees and I couldn't find it. So I went with the path. There's also a little welcome sign that came with that. That looks really cute. It looks like a little like tree wood with like a little welcome sign in there. So I thought that'd be cute here at the front of the house. And it's just kind of seeing what you can find and how you can make it kind of all work together. These pieces were like a little bit larger. They're super cute. There's like this like little live, laugh, love made out of leaves, which is cute. That package also has like a welcome sign in it and like a little lamp post. So it's kind of like playing around with it, kind of like a tiered tray, kind of seeing what looks cute to make a scene. There's like a little welcome arrow sign, which is super cute. And again, it's just a matter of kind of playing with it, putting it there, seeing how you like it. Once I get everything laid out exactly the way I want it, we'll glue everything down and then we'll decorate this some more. I wasn't too sure about the lamppost just because it's not painted super well, but I think we can probably use it somewhere. Like maybe over here in the home scene. It's just kind of trying to lay it out in a way that makes sense. I want to have pathways and different stuff like that. They're there too. Now I thought these were cute too. They're a little on the smaller size, but they're like little birds on posts. There's a really cute little wood welcome sign. And I wanted to use a lot of pieces to kind of make it look nice and full. So I thought maybe we could do like the little bird on the post over here, like in the meadow. This cute little welcome sign would look cute next to that little tree house over here. So it's again just a matter of kind of arranging them And I love how this turned out. It is so fun to DIY. And this would be a great project if you have little ones around that want to get involved. So much creativity. And then finally for the fairies. Now, be careful when you buy these because I went through a couple packages. This packages looked less destroyed, but one of my fairies did still have a broken wing. That one there on the left. I'm going to choose this fairy because she has like a pink dress on. I'll kind of go with the decor. And she's reading a book, and I thought, I will have her hang out over here on this fairy garden because I already have a fairy on the other one, like swinging in the swing. So again, I have them all kind of set. It's just kind of figuring out what's going to make sense. I want a path to come from the front to kind of go to the house. And I want a path to go over to the meadow, to the bench and stuff like that to look at the pond. And I think that looks pretty good. That kind of makes sense. For the grass, I'm going to be using reindeer moss from the Dollar Tree. When you buy this, I do recommend trying to make sure you find one that's kind of wet. It works a lot better today. I used some that wasn't, like, kind of dried out, and I had to wet it a lot, and it was kind of not very, it didn't look great. I thought you could kind of re-wet them a little bit better than, I don't know, I soaked it, and it was really dried out. So I put a little reindeer moss over here in the corner, and then I just hot glue down my cute little swing. And I'm just going to sit the moss in there. Since I have the frame, it all sits in there rather nicely. You can kind of push it down to kind of make it look like a grassy meadow. And there's also, kind of different colors of green. I kind of like, this is one of my favorite colors of the reindeer moss, but sometimes at Dollar Tree, it's kind of whatever you can find. I glued that little live, laugh, love leaf sign down there. And then kind of finished out this part of the meadow. And we are going to decorate it more with all kinds of like little spring things. That's going to make it look like a spring meadow. I'm also going to glue down my little bird on my post and my bench. And while I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and do the pond and the other little bird here in the front. And then I'm going to continue putting moss everywhere, even like under the bench and stuff like that. Anywhere where you can kind of see the wood come through, I'm going to try to fill that in with moss. Now for the path, I thought I would use a different color of moss. I was able to find this floral moss at the Dollar Tree, and it's a little bit more of a brown color. So I thought that would make a really good meadow path. You can also use potting soil for this, and we will be using potting soil for the other side, the other fairy garden right there. And as you can see, I kind of went from the bridge all the way to the bench with that floral moss, and using more than one color like that can really add a little bit of variety. And then I'm going to finish off the rest of it with some more reindeer moss. Again, trying to make sure it's as full as it can be. I want my path to go all the way to the bench, all the way in front of it. And then we can start filling in the other fairy garden over here with moss as well. I just kind of finishing off my layout. I had trouble figuring out where I was going to put the little light post, but I decided to put it back here in the back. And our little fairy reading a book can be right about here. Her little flower house with her welcome sign. And again, I'm only hot gluing my stuff down because I want to be able to move it around without everything tipping over or falling over. This is going to be an indoor one, but you could also do this one as an outdoor one too, depending on what you put it in. Now here is some more reindeer moss. I'm going to start spreading that around. On this one, I'm going to do like a mossy meadow everywhere, but I am also going to have a path to go over to the pond and stuff like that. And I'm also going to have a path that goes to the house. So I'm not going to need as much reindeer moss on this side, but I do want like the backyard and the front yard mostly to be covered in it. I like to kind of break it apart into smaller pieces and kind of push it down to kind of make it look like a grassy field. I don't want it to be super tall, just about the same as like the border of frame of the picture frame. So again, I'm going to use some of that brown floral moss for this path. That's going to go over to like the little meadow there, make a little scene. And I left a path with no moss so that I could fill it up with soil. So I was also able to find potting soil at the Dollar Tree, which is a great find. And I'm going to go ahead and just start spooning or cupping some of this in here. I don't want to make too big of a mess with the potting soil, but I just want enough that I can create a little path. Now for the bridge, I'm also going to glue it down, but I'm only going to glue it to one side. That way I can move the two different fairy gardens independently, but I don't really want it to be falling off. So I just glued it to the frame itself. And then for the path going up to the house, I'm going to use some of the little wood slices from the Dollar Tree. They're just little cut pieces of wood, and they work great for little tiny stepping stones. And so I'm going to kind of push those down into the potting soil over here to provide a perfect little fairy garden path. That is a great use for those. And then check out the mushrooms they have in the Easter section this year. They come in pastel colors and they're so cute. They're little foam mushrooms. They come in two different sizes. These are the mini ones. So at first I'm going to start with the pink with the white spots. I'm cutting the wire but leaving it on about an inch or so I can kind of hook it and push it down into the moss. And that's going to help it stand up. You can see it through the moss and everything like that. It makes it tall enough. And the hook kind of keeps it in place. So I'm just going to scatter little pink mushrooms around. I wanted to use the pink ones because, of course, I'm going with the pink theme for this section of my kitchen with my spring. And then finding small flowers at the Dollar Tree. Sometimes it can be a little difficult. These are called spike, and they have these little tiny white flowers that are pretty small. I always wish that Dollar Tree had a smaller flower variety because I do struggle finding flowers small enough there to use on little miniature projects like this. But I scattered around some white, and then for soft pink, this is called Baby's Breath, and they're pretty small too. So I'm going to just kind of scatter those around too. These are, like, they don't really have a flower center. They have little tabs on there to keep everything together. And some of mine were not doubled up. So make sure they're doubled up. They look a lot better when there's like two flowers, one on top of each other. So I scattered some soft pink around. And then I also found like a brighter pink of the Baby's Breath at the Dollar Tree. And I'm just cutting off like a half inch to an inch of the stem and just pushing that down into the moss. And it'll help it stand up. I also found the little mushrooms from the Easter aisle in lavender, and so I thought that would go nicely with the pink. So I'm going to use some of the smaller ones on those as well. And I'm just cutting the wire. The wire is pretty easy to cut, about an inch, hooking it. I'm going to scatter those around kind of next to my pink ones to provide a little bit of variety in color and just a little bit more decor. And this is how it turned out, my two indoor spring fairy gardens. This is the meadow over there with the little fairy in the swing, the little path to the bench overlooking like a little pond with a frog in it. It's super cute. And then you can take the little bridge over to the little fairy garden house. We have the little pink flower house with the little fairy reading a book over in the corner. Little bird bath in front, cute little path, and you can just get really creative with your fairy gardens. I love how these turn together, and it was a great way to bring a spring fairy garden indoor for indoor decor. Now, you can use just about anything for a fairy garden. I'm going to show you how I use this little seagrass mini tier tray from the Target dollar spot for a fairy garden. I'm going to make the bottom of mine look like a fairy garden. I thought that'd be fun for a cute little spring tier tray. So I'm going to take some reindeer moss and just scatter that around the bottom tier. I love this tier tray. I picked this up at Target dollar spot last year for $5. I think they bring these back from time to time. Keep your eye open for these. These are so cute. And just the right size for a small tier tray. And again, I'm going to use some of the spring items from the Dollar Tree. This is the large mushroom. I kind of like the green color. I think that's really cute. I kind of want to make it look like a little fairy house though. So I'm just going to paint like a little door on it. Nothing crazy. Just like a little rounded top door, and I'm going to do pink to make it look nice and springy. So I just used a pink paint pen and just drew a little door on to the front. I thought that the green color on the top of the mushroom was really nice, so I'm going to leave that color. And then I'm going to kind of outline it here with just a white paint pen to kind of clean it up a little bit, give a little border around my door. And then I can also use that to do like a little fairy doorknob on the front. I'm not going to do any windows or anything like that. I just wanted something simple, kind of like a little door. And this is the perfect size little fairy garden house. You could also use one of the little mushroom houses that are already kind of a fairy garden decor, but I kind of wanted to use this one. I thought it was cute. So I'm going to kind of nestle that in the moss here at the bottom of my tier tray. And if you had like a flat basket tray or anything like that, you could also do a fairy garden in it. It would be really cute. I love this little bench, so I bought another one of these. This is the little wood bench with the pink flower on it. We're going to sit that over here in our little fairy garden there at the bottom. And then I found these. I thought these were so cute, little stepping stones with words on them. Aren't these so cute? They say different things like love garden, sweet home, enjoy time. I'm going to do the love garden and kind of like lay one here towards the front of my little fairy garden. I'm going to decorate the top of it with some really cute items I found at the Target dollar spot. But the bottom is definitely a little fairy garden. For the path, I used the floral moss from the Dollar Tree just because it's a little bit more brown. I don't really want to be doing any soil or anything like that in my nice little tier tray. I don't want it to stain it. For flowers, I'm going to use some of the pink baby's breath. Just cutting those down and kind of nestling those into the reindeer moss. I know it's a little hard to see here at this angle, but I will show you how everything kind of came together. I'm also going to scatter some of the lighter pink baby's breath around like that. And there is our little fairy garden scene down there. Really easy to put together. I thought a few mushrooms would be cute too, so I have some of the larger pink and white mushrooms. And since I'm doing a lot of pink on this one, I thought I would scatter a few of those as well. Hooking the wire and putting those down into the reindeer moss. I think that's plenty. Now check out these great items I found at the Target dollar spot. They're only $1. They have these little like mint green garden boots, which are so cute. And just the right size for a small tier tray like this. I'm going to put that on the very top. And they have these little watering cans, so cute. Dollar Tree has something similar on a stake that you can take off, but these are kind of ready to go. This one's a little bit smaller too. And again, only $1, so cheaper than the Dollar Tree. I didn't really care for the green and white gingham bow on there, so I just pulled mine off. And I'm going to sit that next to my little garden boots over here. And then for the final item, they have these little flower pots for $1 at the spring section at Dollar Tree. And so cute. Some little white and yellow flowers to finish off the top of the tier tray. I thought about putting a little moss on the top too, but I decided I didn't really need it. And so this is how it turned out. My little spring tier tray, that's also a little bit of a fairy garden. I don't know why my camera didn't want to focus too well on these kind of like multi-layered projects, but this is the top of it. And then if you move down, this is the bottom of the fairy garden with our little mushroom house, little bench, little love garden rock. Super easy to do and very whimsical for spring. And let me kind of show you how it all looks together. My little spring tier tray.
Definitely a smaller spring tier tray than I did before, but another fun option. I really hope you enjoyed these fairy garden spring DIYs today. It's now time for the final reveal. Please let me know which one of the DIYs was your favorite down in the comments below. Don't forget to check out my second channel, Crafty Little Beach, if you like watching shorter videos on your phone, and enjoy the final reveal.
fields were mine. We played hide and seek for hours, raised our shadows among the pines. So offshore, playful and free, without a care in the world. I was one rich little girl, daydreamer, kidnap me. Take me back, all the way back to them days, running around in a gown and a crown, barefoot. No mistake ever kept me late. We spent summers catching fireflies and winters on our skates. One big smile across my face. We used to dance our way to church on Sundays. Mama set the pace. Daydreamer, kidnap me. Take me back, all the way back to them days, running around in a gown and a crown, barefoot.
Thank you so much for making it all the way to the end of today's video. I also want to give a huge thank you to all of my YouTube members for supporting my channel. Thank you to Karen O'Haron, Melinda Elizabeth, Jamie Job, Susan Edmonds, Tracy Knight, Janae Farrington, Pamelia Wren, Donna Schreiner, I Am Mojo Jojo, Live Another Day, Maren Christensen, Adrian Brult, Debbie Middleton, Donna Tanner, Kim Rogers, and Maria Cruz Pagan. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. If you would like to become a YouTube member, all you have to do is hit the join button next to today's video. You're going to get early ad-free access to my content here on YouTube, a badge next to your name when you comment down below, and a shout out in every video. It's $4.99 a month and you're free to cancel at any time. And I would love to see what you've been crafting. Make sure you're a member of our private Facebook group linked in the description of today's video to show off your DIYs. We would love to see them. And if you'd like more spring crafting inspiration, check out one of these videos right here. One of these is my other fairy garden video I was telling you about, and the other one is spring DIYs. Enjoy, and until next time, happy crafting!